Hi guys, back with me again, Adi Kurniawan Yusuf. In this video, we're gonna learn together step by step how to analyze data using Smart PLS and also how will be the interpretation. So the Smart PLS application that I will use is Smart PLS 3. These are the research model that we want to analyze. So we will have 4 variables. The first variable is product quality or X1. It is the independent variable. Brand positioning X2, it is also independent variable. Then mediation variable or C, it is brand attitude, and the dependent variable is brand loyalty or Y. The first step is that we have to import the data from Excel to Smart PLS. One important thing for you guys, you need to save your data in Microsoft Excel using CSV format. One more time, you need to save it using CSV format. If you save it using XLSX format, you cannot import it to Smart PLS. This is the step. Click New Project and then just type the name of the project. For example, Smart PLS project. Then OK. After you create the project, then you need to double click this one to import the data. Double click. Then you choose your Excel file. You can see here the type will be Microsoft Excel, separated values or CSV. Please click it. Import data file, worksheet, video, then OK. So all of your data will be directly imported in the Smart PLS. Here guys, you can see there is the mean, median, minimum value, maximum value, standard deviation, excess, kurtosis, and so skewness for each indicator. In the next step, you can see the indicator correlation. So the correlation between each indicator. This is indicator between X1.1 and also X1.2. This is 0.714. It shows that the correlation is strong and also positive. The correlation between X1.1 and X1.3, it is 0.237. The correlation is positive and weak, and so on. Is it clear, right? So you can know the statistic descriptive for each indicator and also the correlation for each indicator. The next step is that you need to draw the model in the drawing pad. Which one is the drawing pad? This is the drawing pad. Smart PLS project, just click it again. This is the drawing pad. So you have to draw the model here. So X1, it is product quality. It consists 5 indicators here, X1.1 up to X1.5. It means just click X1.1 and block up to X1.5, then drag it directly to the drawing pad. So this is the first variable. You can rename it by right click, rename. It is product quality. The second step, we draw the second variable, which is brand positioning. Same way, rename brand positioning. And then the mediating variable, it is brand attitude. I can put it here. Rename as well, brand attitude. And the last one is brand loyalty. By the way guys, you can align the indicator location. For example, for brand loyalty, you want to align right for the indicator. Just click this, then it will be aligned right. For brand attitude, it's okay if you don't want to put it here. For example, you put here to make it easier to see and then make the indicator stop aligned. Just click this, then done. However, you cannot analyze this. You need to connect it. How to connect it? Just click connect and then connect the variable. The first one is product quality to brand attitude, brand positioning to brand attitude, right? And also brand attitude to brand loyalty. And then don't forget the direct effect, product quality on brand loyalty and brand positioning on brand loyalty. I want to move brand loyalty so everything can be seen. Alright, so this is your model. Is it clear, right? After the model is drawn, then we need to conduct outer model test or measurement model test. After measurement model test, we conduct structural model test or inner model test. Our outer model test, it consists of factor loading, reliability, convergent validity, and also discriminant validity. If your model contains formative indicator, you need to conduct outer collinearity. The next one is inner model test. The steps will be conducting collinearity test, and the second one is significance test, both direct effect and also indirect effect. The third one is coefficient of determination R square, then effect size F square, and the last one is predictive relevance or Q square. To analyze those all, there are three common functions in SmartPLS. You can find it from this calculate. The first one is PLS algorithm, the second one is bootstrapping, and the last one is blindfolding. PLS algorithm is especially to analyze outer model. You can find also the direct effect, indirect effect, coefficient, and also the path coefficient in PLS algorithm. R squared and F squared can be also found in PLS algorithm. However, for bootstrapping, you can find the significance. In PLS algorithm, you just know about the coefficients, but you don't know whether it is significant or not. So bootstrapping focus on the significance. The last one is blindfolding. It is used to find the Q square. These are the things that you need to analyze either in the outer model or in the inner model with the benchmark and also the source. You can screenshot it as well for your reference. So the first function is PLS algorithm. Just calculate, then choose PLS algorithm. Here, choose path weighting scheme because it is stated here that path weighting scheme provides the highest R-square value for endogenous latent variable, and it is generally applicable for all kinds of PLS path model. The maximum iteration use should be large. The default here is 300. If you want to use more than 300, it's very okay. The stop criterion, it is 10 to the power of minus x. The default here is 7. You can fill it with 5 or 7. This is the command to stop the PLS algorithm analysis. Then start calculation. Alright, if you see here, there are path coefficient, indirect effect, total effect, outer loading, outer weight, latent variable, residual, R square, F square, and the other things. The first step you need to find is the factor loading or indicator loading. Actually, this step is mentioned as confirmatory factor analysis. We want to know whether an indicator or an item can be the factor of the latent variable or not. The benchmark is the factor loading or indicator loading should be higher than 0.7 and they have to be significant. In the other source, it is mentioned that it has to be higher than 0.708. We can see from the outer loading, you can see here that most of the variables have been green. It means it has fulfilled the benchmark. However, x1.3 is still red because it is less than 0.7, and x1.5 is still also red because it is less than 0.7. How if it is less than 0.7? So the easiest way is that just delete the indicator. However, Hare et al. 2022 mentioned that if your factor loading is still between 0.4 up to 0.708, you can delete the indicator as long as after you delete it, the internal reliability and also the convergent validity above the suggested threshold value. To make it more simple, just delete it x1.3 and x1.5. So we go back to the model and delete x1.3 and also x1.4. Okay, you can align it left again to make it more aligned. Then we conduct PLS algorithm again, calculate PLS algorithm, same path 307, start calculation. And check again the outer loading or factor or indicator loading, everything has been clean, so everything has been okay. Some sources also mention that we need to check the significance of the outer loading. So we can check the significance not in the PLS algorithm but in the bootstrapping. So go back to the drawing pad and then choose calculate then bootstrapping. As you know that SmartPLS can work efficiently and effectively using small sample size because they create several subsamples from the data randomly. For example, this is your data. They create this subsamples, 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 and subsamples. The number of subsamples should be large to make the result more consistent. However, larger number of subsamples increase the computation time. The default is 500 and I think it has been enough. If you want to make it into 1000, 2000, 10,000, it is okay, but the computation time will be longer. Due to this subsample method, the analysis that you conduct with what your friend conduct using the same data can be different, even though there will be only slight difference between your analysis and the other analysis. Just stick to parallel processing. Amount of result, you can choose basic bootstrapping, it is enough. But if you want to use complete bootstrapping, it's also okay. Confidence interval method, just use bias corrected and accelerated bootstrap. The test type, of course, two-tailed with significance level 5%, 0.05. Then start calculation. You can see from the outer loading significance, you can see here all the p-values are less than 0.05. It means all are significant. So factor loading criteria are fulfilled. The second one is about reliability. There are three reliability analyses that we should pay attention on. We go to PLS algorithm and choose construct reliability and validity. The reliability measurements are Cronbach alpha, rho A, and also composite reliability. All of these numbers should be higher than 0.7. If you see here, all of them are green. Therefore, the indicators are reliable. If you see as well, the value of rho A should be between Cronbach alpha and also composite reliability. In the SmartPLS 4, the composite reliability is denoted with rho C. After analyzing outer loading or factor loading and also reliability, the next one, let's analyze convergent validity. You can check convergent validity using average variance extracted or AVE. The AVE values represent whether the indicators used to measure a variable really have high correlation with this variable. So these indicators can represent the latent variable. The threshold value is 0.5. If it is more than 0.5, it means the convergent validity prerequisite is fulfilled. If you see here, the AVE value are fulfilled for all indicators. The next one is discriminant validity. If convergent validity wants to know whether this indicator really represents this variable or not, discriminant validity wants to know whether the indicator of a variable of a construct is different with the indicator of different construct. For example, variable A has indicator A, variable B has indicator B. Indicator A and indicator B should not be correlated since they measure different variables. If indicator A and indicator B are correlated, the discriminant validity will not be fulfilled. There are three methods to know discriminant validity. The first one is Fornell-Larker, the second one cross-loading, and the last one is HTMT. Actually, you don't need to analyze all these three, just use one only, but the most recommended one is HTMT, heterotrait monotrait ratio. You can find the result in discriminant validity. The top row is the square root of AVE, average variance extracted, and it will be diagonal. So 0.865 is the square root of AVE of the brand attitude. This is as well the square root of AVE of the brand loyalty and so on. while the value below, it is the correlation between two variables. It means between brand attitude and also brand loyalty. The benchmark is that the square root of the AVE of a variable should be higher than the correlation between that variable with the other variable. On the easier word, I can say that the top value in each column should be the highest compared to the value below. If you can see 0.865, it is the higher compared to the last three values. This one as well, this one as well, this one as well. Therefore, Warner-Larker criteria is met. Or I can say that the discriminant validity criteria is met. You can also check using cross-loading. The benchmark is that the value of the loading of the indicator with the construct should be the highest compared to the other construct or the other variable. For example, x1.1 is product quality, so the value of the loading x1.1, x1.2, x1.4 on product quality should be the highest compared to the other indicators. You can see here, these three numbers are the highest compared the values below. x2.1 up to x2.5 represent brand positioning. Therefore, it should be the highest compared to the other indicators. y1.1 up to y1.4 representing brand loyalty. It is the highest compared to the other. c1.1 up to c1.4 representing brand attitude. It is the highest compared to the other value. Therefore, the discriminant validity using cross-loading is fulfilled. The third method is using HTMT or heterotrait monotrait ratio. The prerequisite is that if it is less than 0.9, then it is good. Or the indicators representing a construct is different with the indicators representing other construct or variable. Some sources also mention if the indicators are really different, then we can set the benchmark value or the threshold value is 0.85 instead of 0.9. So in this case, all the value is less than 0.9 or less than 0.85, so the discriminant validity criteria is fulfilled. This is the information for you guys to know the descriptive statistic of each latent variable. You can analyze that perhaps using SPSS or Microsoft Excel using this data. However, for the correlation for each variable, you can find it using latent variable, and this is the latent variable correlation. The next one is outer model collinearity. For reflective model, as we know that our model is refractive model or the indicators are all reflective, you don't need to conduct outer model collinearity. Therefore, for outer model task, we have done it all and everything has been fulfilled. After conducting outer model task, you need to conduct inner model test or structural model test. So guys, for inner model test, the first step is that we need to analyze the collinearity, the inner model collinearity. You can go to PLS algorithm. If you haven't analyzed about PLS algorithm, you can go to the drawing pad and then calculate PLS algorithm. Okay, if you have analyzed, just open PLS algorithm. Open collinearity statistics and see directly inner VIF. Okay, if the VIF value is less than 5, it means there is no multi-collinearity. In this case, all the VIF value is less than 5. Therefore, there is no multi-collinearity issues. Alright, the next one is analyzing the direct and indirect effect or t-test. And you can find it from the bootstrapping result. If you haven't know, you can calculate bootstrapping in the calculate tools here, and then the result of bootstrapping will be appeared. If you see here, this is the result of the direct effect. The original sample, this is the coefficient. This is the sample mean, the standard deviation, t-statistic, and p-value. The relationship is significant if the p-value is less than 0.05. If it is more than 0.05, it means it is not significant. So let's summarize together in the diagram. We can see here, the relationship between brand attitude and brand loyalty, the coefficient is 0.288 and it is significant. It means significant positive. Brand attitude to the brand loyalty, significant and positive. And then brand positioning to brand attitude, it is not significant. If it is not significant, no need to see the direction. Brand positioning to brand attitude, it is not significant. Brand positioning to brand loyalty, it is significant and the significance is positive because the coefficient is positive. So it is significant and positive. The next one, product quality to brand attitude, it is significant as well and the coefficient is positive. So product quality to brand attitude, significant and positive. However, product quality to brand loyalty, it is red more than 0.05, it is not significant. Is it clear, right? So guys, if you can see, there are two independent variables, one mediation and also one dependent variable, right? We want to test whether brand attitude can mediate product quality on brand loyalty and brand attitude can mediate brand positioning on brand loyalty or not. Okay? The direct effect of the product quality on the brand loyalty is not significant. The direct effect from the brand positioning on brand loyalty, it is significant and positive. The next step is that we need to analyze the indirect effect. So if you can see here, product quality to brand attitude, it is significant. Brand attitude and brand loyalty, it is also significant. If both relationships are significant, there are possibility if they are significant. Okay? If one only not significant, they must be not significant. Okay? For example, this is brand positioning not significant, and then brand attitude to brand loyalty significant, the indirect effect must be not significant. However, using Smart PLS, you don't need to test Sobel test. Okay? You just can see directly from the specific indirect effect. You can see here, brand positioning to brand attitude to brand loyalty, the indirect effect, it is red. It is not significant. Okay? While for product quality to brand attitude to brand loyalty, it is green. So the indirect effect exists. So you don't need to use Sobel test. You just see directly from the specific indirect effect. So the conclusion is that brand attitude can mediate product quality and brand loyalty. However, brand attitude cannot mediate brand positioning on brand loyalty. Is it clear, right? Now, what type of mediation is this? In the previous video, I have ever explained about the type of the mediation. If both direct effect and indirect effect significant, it means partial mediation. If the direct effect not significant while the indirect effect is significant, it is full mediation. However, if the indirect effect is not significant, it means no mediation. In this case, the direct effect is not significant, the indirect effect is significant. Therefore, it is full mediation. So brand attitude is the full mediator in the relationship between product quality and also brand loyalty. The next one is coefficient of determination or R-square. R-square represents the proportion of dependent variables that can be explained by the independent variables. If you see from the model, brand attitude independent variables are product quality and brand positioning. And brand loyalty's independent variables are brand attitude, product quality, and brand positioning. You can see R-square in the PLS algorithm. This is the R-square. Brand attitude R-square is 0.216 or 21.6%. It means brand attitude 21.6% can be explained by the product quality and also brand positioning. However, brand loyalty 34.8% can be explained by product quality, brand positioning, and brand attitude. The other one is R-square adjusted. It only talks about the proportion of dependent variables that can be explained by the independent variables that are significant only. As I ever mentioned in the other video, actually there is no universally standard of the R-square. But usually, the good R-square is more than 0.5 if it is using primary data. The next one is F-square. This is how to find the F-square. In the PLS algorithm, just click F-square. Basically, F-square represents the effect size, the relative effect of independent variables on the dependent variable. It also talks about the change of R-square if this independent variable is deleted. It can be classified into 4: no effect, small effect, medium effect, or large effect. No effect if it is less than 0.02. It means that the independent variable is actually not too important. Small effect if it is at least 0.02 but less than 0.15. Medium effect if at least 0.15 and less than 0.35. Large effect if it is equal or higher than 0.35. In this case, toward brand attitude, brand positioning has no effect and product quality has medium effect. On brand loyalty, brand attitude has small effect, brand positioning has medium effect, and product quality has no effect. Is it clear, right? The next one is about Q-square or blindfolding or predictive relevance. So the concept of blindfolding is like this. For example, you have 100 data and then you want to remove the data in every 5th position. So the 5th position will be removed, 10th position will be removed, 15th position will be removed, and so on. After you remove several data, then this is the rest of the data, right? You can conduct regression analysis using the rest of the data. And then later on you will get the regression equation. The question is that regression equation that is formed from the rest of the data can predict the result of the data that has been removed previously? If it is yes, then it has high predictive relevance or high Q-square. If it is not, it will have low Q-square or low predictive relevance. This is the steps. You go to the drawing pad and then calculate blindfolding. Okay, 7 here, it means you try to remove the data in every 7th position. Okay, the 7th position, 14th position, and so on. Okay, the value here should be between 5 to 12. The default is 7, just use 7 is okay. Then start calculation. The result will be provided for each endogenous variable or the variable that has dependent variable role. In this case, brand attitude and brand loyalty. If the Q-square is higher than 0 but less than 0.25, it has low predictive relevance. If it is between 0.25 up to 0.5, it has medium predictive relevance. If it is more than 0.5, it has large or high predictive relevance. In this case, for brand attitude model, it has low predictive relevance. For brand loyalty model, it has medium predictive relevance. It is still okay as long as it is higher than 0.